My name is Joel Karubui. I am the representative of Trade Estonia in Kenya. So Estonia decided to take a bold step 2 years ago and look to trade more with Kenya and Africa. And one of the first things they did is they opened an office in Kenya. So Kenya is their first landing within the East Africa region. And for them, it's all about working with Kenya and working with East Africa. So I represent that office here. So I'm the country representative. I've been in this sector for a couple of years. I've met a lot of you who have seen in this room. Before that, I used to run the .ke domain. So for those of you who don't have a .ke domain, I still advocate that you get yourself a .ke domain because that's the Kenyan presence. And even for companies coming to Kenya, you must get a .ke domain. I know the PS will tell you more about that at some point. Other than that, Brian, you can introduce yourself, then we can move on.
I am here representing the private sector. I sit as the vice chair of the ICT sector board at KEPSA. My chairman is seated somewhere in the panel. They'll introduce themselves. But beyond that, I run a startup in artificial intelligence, and I have a history of I've been practicing my IT within the Kenya space. I worked a little bit on a few government projects representing the private sector and the voice of the private sector within the architectures of government and also in a few strategy documents. So with that said, I think I'll hand back to you.
Maybe Brian, before you sit,
yes.
Why are we here?
That's a good question. I mean, we need to ask everyone else why exactly they're here. I think for me, what I would say why we're here, and particularly Kenya for that reason, is because Kenya, either intentionally or unintentionally, has charted a path in the technology space, particularly within the continent. This is a leadership that has taken place over the last few years, even from a Smart Africa perspective. Kenya was actually the country that did the framework for the digital economy blueprint. And with the incoming government, they have actually embraced digital economy as a function within the government itself and the delivery of digital from within their own manifesto. But the story of Kenya is very well written. And I think that is partially why we're here, to look at the opportunities. And Kenya, in many respects, blazes the trail for a lot of African countries. We do understand that, Africa has different levels of market maturity. And Kenya is actually a very good example of where you can try a lot of your products and basically see whether this will work within Africa. So I can talk and talk, but for me, one of the reasons why I'm here is also to take a look at the opportunities, listen to private sector, but most importantly, to listen to our sector leadership from the PS himself and find out ways in which we can achieve these digital goals.
At national and regional level, as I told you. And also in terms of, let's say, sectorial solutions, we have developed together with our with the government solutions specifically for justice. For instance, we have a totally digital justice system that ensure that all the juridical records are managed in digital, including hearings or the evidence management or whatever is digital. Okay, so it's one of the first systems worldwide that is providing this kind of ensuring that. Also in tax and revenue, being Spain one of the leaders in that. For instance, in healthcare, also we are incorporating new technologies and emerging technologies in that domain in terms of artificial intelligence for ensuring that to making decisions to help the efficient to make better decisions and so on, and also providing intelligence in the when you are in the chronic patients, to analyze patterns and so on, and to identify what kind of measures you need to put in place, or in the juridical, once again, to include artificial intelligence to help the judge to make better decisions, to analyze all the information in terms of what is in the records, in the juridical record, but also in terms of the regulations and whatever. Okay, so and nowadays also we are investing in the solutions or the use cases. First of all, in use cases, but now in solutions that includes these emerging technologies. For instance, in smart cities, no smart cities, but smart cities conceiving that in terms of what kind of smart city you want to have, in terms to promote tourism, in promote investment, in promote R&D, to be much more innovative in promoting agriculture for the territories and so on and so forth. No.
Thank you so much.
Sorry to be so.
Over to you, Ben.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ben Roberts. I work at Liquid Intelligent Technologies, which is formerly known as Liquid Telecom, and I am Chief of Technology and Innovation for the group, but I live based in Kent. Has gone. I'm also, as I'm the one Brian was mentioning, I'm chair of the ICT Sector Board for Kenya Private Sector Alliance. So Liquid Telecom, for those who don't know us, we have built a lot of infrastructure in Africa, fiber optic infrastructure and data center infrastructure. So we have the largest data center in East Africa here in Nairobi, which has got local and global players hosted there, and it's nearly full. We've just broken ground on what will be the next largest data center to come after that. Yeah, we have about 100,000 kilometers of fiber stretching from Cape Town to Cairo and Mombasa to Kinshasa, east, west, and north, south through the African continent. A very large fiber network in Kenya, and really connecting. Our specialization is connecting fiber across borders, linking countries to each other. We link all the countries of East African community up with each other, and we've extended now east-west across into DRC. So yeah, we're bringing cloud and other innovations to the to go on top of that, but ultimately we are an infrastructure-based technology company.
Thank you very much, Ben. Ken.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ken Kimani. I work for a company called ESET. For most of you who do not know who ESET is a digital security company, and our main focus is basically to secure an ever-changing, complex digital world. We all can agree that in terms of digitalization, the world is changing, it's always changing, and our main focus is to secure that. That world looks different for different people, for SMEs, for consumers, for enterprises, for government. So we do our best to ensure that we all enjoy a secure digital world. We came into Kenya in 2016. As Joel mentioned, also we chose Kenya as a landing spot for East and Central Africa. We've been here for a while. We know and appreciate what the government is doing in this country, and we believe this is fertile ground to be able to go into the other regions. We protect over 110 million users in over 200 countries, and we have had the privilege of working with the government in terms of endpoint protection for over the past 4 years, and we hope to continue that conversation here and hereafter as we continue to discuss in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ken.
So my name is Tiago. I'm working for Self-Focus. I also like to present myself. I'm 51 years old, being here in Kenya since 2011, the company since 2008. I'm very proud of working here with our Kenyan friends. They help us a lot in many things. And the services that we launch together as one. It's not the Self-Focus service or the provider services, the services we launch together. I'm very proud to have the company of my fellow panelists that I also welcome. Self-Focus, we are like 2,000 working in 25 countries. Although we are based in Portugal, in terms of revenue, we have only 15% coming out of Portugal, 85% comes from the international areas where we are, Kenya being one of them. And we've been all over Africa already, in many countries. And we in Kenya is one that is more relentless in terms of going into innovation and into the digitalization path that we are going to talk a little bit today. Thank you.
Thank you, Thiago.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pius Angasa. Pius, I'm the country manager for Nokia in Kenya. So I've been in the telecommunications sector for quite some while now, since my college, I left college and got into the sector. I've been in the sector for around 22 years, so I've seen a lot of development in ICT. Glad to be in this room with you guys, and yeah, I hope we're going to have a good afternoon together. Now, what does Nokia do? Nokia, I'll take our tagline and say that Nokia basically we create technology that make people act together. That's basically our key call. And always when I tell people that I work for Nokia, the first question is, oh, does Nokia still exist? Which probably some of you in this room probably have the same question as well. Now, Nokia, yes, we do exist. Maybe not in the space, you know, because earlier on we were known in the handset space. You know, you knew us through the access terminal, your mobile phones. And of course, we are still present in that space, but not that strong. Basically, we're very, very strong in the infrastructure space. And we actually are world leaders in some of the cutting edge technologies like 5G or the 5th generation networks. And, you know, there's always a generation after every 10 years. So I think in another 5 years, yeah, that will be 2028, we'll be telling you about the 6th G. So basically we are technology leaders in communication, supplying services and solutions to our key partners who basically are the mobile operators and fixed network operators. I also need probably to mention in the room that we probably are the largest deployment company and supply of submarine cables that connect Africa to the rest of the world, and the rest of the world, obviously the vice versa, the rest of the world to Africa. So that's pretty much what we do, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pius. In a previous life, I worked for Nokia at the research center side. We've just been joined by Paul. I'll ask you to just take 3 minutes, introduce yourself and the company.
Apologies for the delays. So my name is Paul Langlois. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Optimetrics. We are a French company. We develop a B2B software as a service, which helps SMEs and companies manage their customer relationships on the field and commercial activities in real time. So typical use case we have in Kenya, for example, is in the consumer goods sectors. We've been working for several years with a company called Winnie's Pure Health. It's a food and beverage company which manufactures health and organic products. So they use our app for the sales representatives to record the visits to the retailers, the supermarkets, to record the sales, to recover the debt that they need to collect from the customers, view how they perform against the incentive targets, basically structure the field activity. So the benefit is both for the managers that you understand better the transparency and efficiency of your business, for the field user to know how you're standing against your target and to better see the customers that you need to visit. And finally, for the customers themselves to have a better quality of service, which is essential when it comes to distribution, not having to wait for your goods to be delivered and so on. So that's what we do. We also work in other sectors like Basco painting, Kenya Biologics is fertilizers, and One Acre Fund, which is a big organization in the agriculture sector, where the logic of the CRM will be more applied to the small farmers. They have a lot of field supervisors that are on the field to recruit, train, inspect and purchase products from the farmers like macadamia nuts or avocado. And so the logic of traceability happens through our app. So we've been working in Kenya for 5 years, created a branch there. We have 20 staff. We are really happy with the setup in Kenya to cover East Africa, to find motivated and qualified staff. And that's it. We're also a self-funded company. So I think compared to the other company, we are an SME ourselves. We are not part of a big group. You don't need millions to basically incorporate in Kenya. So we show that it's possible as a small company to establish a presence in Kenya as the hub to East Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Paul. I saw Jorge smile there.
I was sent a 10-page CV, but I'll only read the first paragraph of that CV as I introduce our guest. Engineer John Tanui, MBS, is the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Information, Communications, and the Digital Economy, in charge of State Department of ICT and Digital Economy. Prior to joining ministry, Engineer Tanui was the CEO of Konza, Technopolis Development Authority, which we call COCTA, for 7 years, Deputy Country CEO and Vice President of Huawei, responsible for Kenya, Tanzania, Somalia, and Djibouti, and the Director of Technical Service Department in the same organization that he served for over 15 years. So if I read the other 10 pages, really, we'll be here for a while. So I'd like to introduce PS.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Joel, and thank you, Brian. It's really good to sit with such a great panelist who have rich experience in diverse areas and are present in our country. As mentioned, I'm John Tanui, PS ICT and Digital Economy in the Ministry of Information, Communication, and Digital Economy. Within the ministry, we have 2 state departments. One where I lead, that's the ICT and Digital Economy, and the other one, Broadcasting and Telecommunications. So those are the 2 statements, 2 state departments within our ministry. Our vision as a ministry is to have a competitive country, which is knowledge-based. And when I hear some of the products and solutions my colleagues are talking about, that is the journey we want to create for our country, to be a bigger player in that space. And our mission is to facilitate access to ICT infrastructure and also services across the country. And that is the role of the ministry, but not necessarily doing all this by ourselves, but by working with the private sector and other government agencies to ensure we achieve that objective. Within the State Department that I lead, we have a number of institutions that are under my State Department. We have the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, responsible for data protection and privacy. We have ICT Authority, which is responsible for the government infrastructure, connectivity, and government services, and supporting the government in provision of data services. The other institution we have is Konza Technopolis Development Authority, and that's the institution I was leading before taking my new role. And the objective of this institution is to support in ensuring we build a global innovation hub, which is a Technopolis, and also a global innovation hub. It's a smart city, a science and technology park, and also an investment destination as a special economic zones area. We also have an institution, which is academic institution for research, which is Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. This is a new institution we just started establishing with the support of the Korean government, with the leadership of Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, who are helping us to design the curriculum and the entire facility. So we call it our Stanford, the Stanford of the Silicon Savannah, as we have the Stanford in the Silicon Valley. So this is an institution which will be providing masters and in STEM areas. The other institution we have is TEAMS, which is actually a public-private partnership engagement where we have several private sector players and government has a stake in it, and this provides the international connectivity. That provides us the submarine fiber connectivity. our sector, we have several instruments that guides us. Brian mentioned about digital blueprint, which was established to guide our sector in respect to digital economy. We also have another document which we developed recently, which we call the Digital Master Plan, which provides the direction of our government in making our sector vibrant. And also, the current government has established a development program, which was established through a plan, it's called the plan. And in that, there are 5 key focus areas that the government is focusing on. One is agriculture. The second one is SMEs and cooperatives. The third one is universal health. And also we have housing. And the fifth is the digital economy and the creative economy, and that is where our state department is responsible. So we have a number of key focus areas that we are focusing, and it's good to note when my colleagues spoke, many of them are players in some of these sectors. The first one being the digital superhighway. And when we talk of the digital superhighway, we're talking about connectivity, connectivity to the global, that's from the submarine, connection to the terrestrial connectivity, fiber connectivity, the backbone across the country, and also within the cities, the metro connectivity, and the last mile, which is connectivity to enterprises, to homes. We are also talking about the final connectivity, which is the device, to ensure we have a real digital superhighway. And within the term of the next 5 years, we've set a target to add additional 100,000 kilometers to the existing fiber infrastructure in the country. And we are doing this both with the private sector. It's good to see Ben here, who is a player in the sector and also a member of KEPSA. We are looking at what we've already built. We have public sector, about 25,000 kilometers of fiber already built. We have, that's from public sector. Private sector, about 50,000. We are adding another 100,000, with the private sector contributing about 48,000, public sector over 50,000, about 52,000. So we think this is quite key for us to make, to address connectivity. We also looking at ensuring there is affordable smart devices to ensure connectivity. The other thing is we're looking at working all of us. The targets is private and the public sector. We want to provide public free Wi-Fi. We're looking at establishing successful models that can make it sustainable, and also ensuring that as we connect our hospitals, we connect our schools, we connect all the other institutions along the road. The other key area, focus area for us is the data protection and cybersecurity. And I think this is all of us in the sector. This is an important global issue that we must address to ensure that we reap the maximum benefits of the digital space without bringing the risk to our businesses. The other key focus area is Concert Technopolis, which is our investment destination, and we're inviting many of you who are keen. We are happy some of the delegations were able to visit there, a number of ambassadors, some of the delegations had engagement there. This is our Science and Technology Park, where we aim at ensuring that we really create a knowledge location, and that's also where our university, Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, is located. We also host the National Data Center in that location. We have a number of companies putting up there to focus on manufacturing and many other activities. It's 60 kilometers from Nairobi, and you can visit. The other focus area is digital hubs. Besides the connectivity, we want to ensure we have digital hubs. A number of efforts have been done, or initiatives have been done in the past, both by private sector and public sector. to create digital hubs across the country. And we are planning to add another 1,450 digital hubs across the country to ensure that our youth are able to access platforms that will help them. We have programs that every year we train over 400 graduates in the ICT sector to ensure we equip them with skills, and they have 1 year to spend in both public sector and private sector and achieve certification. And finally, they will be absorbed by either private sector and public sector to address the issue of tech talent in our country. We also aim to train our youth with digital skills to enable them access this space. We're working with the technical and vocational institutions to now look at establishing devices and spaces where they can learn about online work, IT-enabled services, and they can serve the global from here in the country. And that's an opportunity that also we can engage and see how we can support you from Kenya. The other key area is the digitalization. We are working to digitize our government. A lot of achievement has been realized, but we still have a long way to ensure our citizens can be served from wherever they are through a digital device, and they can be able to transact at any time from anywhere for all the services. We still have huge opportunities there to work with private sector and other players to see that we can enhance this. And in digitization, we are looking at building an architecture for our government, which can be seen as government as a platform, so that the private sector and other players can build additional applications, businesses on top of the government digital infrastructure. So that's a key area that we are looking at. How do we open more opportunities for enterprises, whether it's in logistics, e-commerce, fintechs, and so forth? If we move with the speed that we've seen in our financial sector, which is well digitized, we've seen also in our telcos. Now government wants to really reach that level in terms of digitization. We will be allowing now all our enterprises to also follow suit, and indeed it will open huge opportunities. We have quite a good number of SMEs, but they are small, but we believe with the digitization, they'll be able to access huge opportunities. The other thing is which is our infrastructure is connecting. We believe to connect the whole country beyond 100,000 kilometers. There is huge opportunities for the private sector, which the opportunities to connect both through many options, PPP and other approaches. So through that, there is huge opportunities for you and those even who are seated here to work with us to realize this dream and ensure we empower our country and give full benefits of the digital space. Thank you.
Thank you. Clearly, your work is cut out for you, and we are very happy to also note that with every passing week, we are seeing paperless cabinet meetings, we are seeing Wi-Fi hotspots. So it is indeed true that you mean what you say. Just some very quick reflections based on what he has said. Something that has consistently been a question in my mind is, what exactly is digital economy? I don't know whether that's something that has been a matter that raises quite a number of questions, because it's a term that is thrown around quite a lot. What exactly is a digital economy? And we know for a fact that Kenya has been an agrarian economy predominantly from the moment of independence, but there is a very clear intention to turn Kenya into a digital economy. The interesting bit is that is an entire journey of transformation. So there has to be a transformation of all facets of the economy, from how the economy looks like into a reality in the digital space. in all honesty, every other individual who's inside this forum, whether they're talking about agriculture, whether they're talking about health, whether they're talking about legal, have to ask themselves that question. How will my sector look like within the digital reality? And I think Jorge alluded to that when he talked quite a lot about sector. The truth about it is it's a journey that all of us will take from a sector perspective, but most of all, that we will take from a national perspective. And the reality about it is that a lot of the countries around the world that are probably not African, let me say Europe, a lot of European countries are slightly ahead in this journey of embracing a digital economy. And I think that is one of the things that definitely Kenya as a country can learn, and one of the things that opens up quite a lot of opportunities for partnerships together with individuals, particularly within the EU. So based on, I think, because I was asked to reflect a bit on your speech, and I think it is something that is very, very clear that from a government perspective, the digital economy is a vision and it is indeed a goal. And the government is moving with very clear intent towards the delivery of this digital economy. And the PS has shown us quite a number of those initiatives. And I think from here, I'll hand it over to Joel, and we'll also take a few reflections and comments from the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Did everyone notice how much the PS has envisioned a mobile phone to cost? Or you are not looking at the presentation? No, I said the last questions. How much was the, did anyone see? $40. Nokia, it's your time to come back. $40 phone, smart, not smart, $40. I'll go through the panelists just one by one. Just what jumped out from the 5 pillars that you have seen as an opportunity for your organization? And because you're here to do business, isn't it? Apart from going to the national park, you're here to do business. So from the 5 pillars, what has jumped out for you as an immediate, just one, that you can say this one makes sense for us as a company, this is an area we want to focus on? And I'll start from Paul and we'll come down the...
I think we fit with the political agenda when it comes to helping the SMEs, the vast majority of the SME. When you look at the structure of the market, there are a few large companies, but the reality is that you have a vast majority of SME that are sometimes at the border between informal and formal. So we, with the software that we avail to them, the idea is to help these SMEs move to a more structured way of doing business. And by leveraging the technology and digital, they can get more transparency, more efficiency, and in the end, make this business more profitable or suitable for investment or credit. So typically, something that we face in the consumer goods sector is the lack of trust from the owner regarding, for example, his distributors or sales rep. He doesn't know really maybe what the sales rep representative are doing during the day. The guy might pretend he has worked while actually the investment was not here. So by having a proper monitoring solution, it's something that can help him be more confident in the money he allocates to that aspect of his operation and in the end create more jobs. So that, I think, is really our mission, and we believe there is a huge need for SME to have affordable enterprise software solutions to manage their stock, accounting, inventory, and commercial activities, and vast and big productivity gains can be derived from that. Thank you.
For us, it's difficult to choose just one because we are covering almost the five pillars. I think that is good just to share to you one experience that we are having, for instance, in Africa, that is in Morocco, for the Digital Development Agency. As I told you before, we are partners of governments and we are going with them internationally. So in terms of that terms, we are partners of the Digital Agency in Morocco. defining the strategy for digitalization of the country, starting from this interoperability framework, national interoperability frameworks, and providing the platform that could provide the services that, on top of that, you could create the digital economy in this, following the same terms that we are using here. No? And with that, we are also defining the strategy, how to move there, and also providing the security service and also the national security scheme to ensure that all the data is managed in a proper way, let's say. No? Based on that, on the experience that we have in Spain, basically, but also in the European Union, because part of the European Union and also the platform that we are providing is certified by the European Union, and the two only ones in the Internet of everything, let's say. That is the basis for our products and our strategy to move into the different governments, let's say.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can pick on any one item, but my focus would be the digital superhighway, and there's four things that were mentioned. I really have to comment on all of them, really. I mean, the task to build 100,000 kilometers of fiber as a nation in 5 years is ambitious, and I speak as someone who I've built 100,000 kilometers of fiber in 15 countries, but it's taken about 13, 14 years. So it's a tough one, but it's, building fiber is like 25% of the journey. Really, to make fiber sustainable, you have to have products and services and service quality and in service level agreements on top of that for the services you run. I would urge government to incentivize in the right way for the private sector investment. What has worked very well for us, one country that's stood out is South Africa, where they have a small number of provincial governments. I think it's about 10, but a few of them have gone to the lengths of awarding long-term contracts to telcos that can roll out large quantities of fiber, providing fiber into Wi-Fi hotspots, as well as connectivity to all buildings and schools and government buildings. And that works very well because government get the services they require, and the fiber gets built. So it's a good model for investment, and then private sector telcos that build it then look for other customers with government as the anchor. It's obviously very exciting that government is going to be supporting private sector firms to come and invest in cloud infrastructure. I think this might be the easiest task or that the ministry has set itself, and I think I can predict that there are at least 2 global large hyperscale cloud people will launch in Kenya within 2 years, I would think. So I think one will be very soon, and another 2 or 3 will be following very shortly afterwards. And I'm really excited by the manufacture of affordable devices. We do have electronics manufacturing here in Kenya. It's at a nascent stage, but I recently introduced a British company who make ultra low cost computing devices. They're called Raspberry Pi. They make single board computers. So they're making that device now in Kenya, and it's a small computer, but it costs $10. So it's cheaper than the smartphone. It doesn't have a screen and everything else. But I would add to this: if Kenya is going to really grow its digital economy, this affordability of devices is going to be our biggest hurdle. When we looked at the 2019 census results, although people in Nairobi said that, I think it's about 50-60% of people said they had a tablet or smartphone in Nairobi. Once you get into the northern counties, it's down to 2 or 3% of people have access to a tablet or smartphone. This is the biggest barrier we have to the digital economy. And a $30 smartphone is a useful device, but it won't help you start your graphic design business. You're going to need an iMac Pro for that. So as well as reducing making affordable devices locally, which is fantastic, and I'm really supportive of that. We are going to need to reduce the cost of those higher end devices, and that really means we need to remove a litany of import duties and taxes. I think about 60% is added onto the cost of an iPad these days when you come into the airport, and that really has to be removed.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Where we come from, or where I come from as a as a Kenyan, our biggest challenge when you approach a buffet is selecting one dish. So I think this has been used against us by telling us to pick one topic and discuss that from the PS's speech, but I'll try my best. If I was to pick one area, I'd go with information security and cybersecurity management. This is our bread and butter, as he said. This ties hand in hand with the digital government. I think we can all attest to the digital government as it is right now. We want a digital government that is secure, that is reliable, that is available. Two of the KPIs of the digital government is nil breaches, zero breaches basically not to be hacked by anyone, and 99.99% availability. These are high KPIs. They're achievable, but they're quite high. We would want to plug into that. That is our particular interest area. As I mentioned earlier on, we've had the opportunity to partner with the government in terms of endpoint security over the past 4 years. That has opened up several doors. We've had a lot of discussions with different stakeholders in the different ministries, the MCDAs, the ministries, the counties, the departments, and different agencies, to try and see how best we can help the government in ensuring that they have a digital economy and a digital government that is reliable, secure, and available. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Tiago?
Yeah, so let me try to twist a little bit the ideas here. So you mentioned about digital economy. I know very well Portugal, and I know very well Kenya from being here so much time. And I can tell you two things. Although, for example, in Portugal, in Europe, or in EU, as we are talking here, some services are advanced, called quote unquote, the propensity for them to be used is low. Because we are an aging society, meaning we have lots of people above 50 years, and that's it. And here, although you have lots of advanced services that you don't give proud yourselves that you have, sorry to say that, be proud on what the things that you built here. There is a high propensity of a younger generation to consume them. And there I see, in my perspective, that the digital economy potential is much higher here in Kenya than in all over Europe. Because once the services are up, it's very easy, and the propensity is there to be tapping into that approach. What I would say now, coming back to your question, choosing one. As self-focus, what tickled a little bit was the topic around as a platform, meaning we do a lot of digital transformations, support telcos and banks to go through that. The topics around e-signatures, analytics, machine learning. So I could here be like listing all the things that we can do. But for us, we tend to see here in Kenya a lot of services that are already very advanced and that could be exported. I'm sorry to twist it away. More than importing services that you may have from Europe or whatever, you have a lot of potential to export your own services abroad. I'm not talking only M-Pesa, that of course is the classical example. I'm talking about other services that are there. And that can easily be done in that way. I personally work with a lot of Kenyans, and politically incorrect, I would say the problem is not the cost, it's the revenue. So meaning, if people have jobs that give them some good wage, they will buy their mobiles, whatever cost there is. And I think what coming back now back to Portugal, when everybody was reducing cost-cutting in Europe, and we were under pressure of 2008 and all of that, the way that we came out of it is we said, forget cost-cutting. We are going to invest, and the revenue, the PIB will come up. And then let's say the balance will be much positive. And this is what we did. And I think here the main bet is to use the solutions that now government are doing, and also private sectors, like major telco companies, in here even KPLC and others, that can bring the levels of revenue higher, high-paying jobs to people inside Nairobi and outside Nairobi. And that will clearly help, I think, the government ambitions that cannot move along. But with the focus of exporting that as a platform to others, I think can be a really game changer. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego. Maybe Paul?
I think first, I'll just make one comment really. Like I had mentioned, I've been in the sector for a pretty long time, 20 plus years. What I've seen is the consistency of, the push towards digitalized Kenya. I remember back in the years when, we were talking about the digital transport and everything was based on narrowband, and then the fiber came, and, it was a game changer because then a lot of services, latency reduced, and a lot of services now could, be delivered at fairly good digital speeds. So I must thank the ministry through UPS that one of the things that the nation has been very consistent with is, their, I would say, their digital plan for the country. And I want to believe that that's going to continue in the unforeseeable future of this country. That's really good. In terms of the 5 pillars and what is addressable, I'll probably refer to, as I was going through the document, the Digital Master Plan. I saw one research that was done by EU on e-government, and basically 3 of them were talking about the social networks and digital infrastructure, and I think the other one was human capital. The other 2 scored really high in terms of, the uptake in the country, but the digital infrastructure was at about 34%. When I looked further into the data, 34% for Kenya was really high because the African average was 31%. But what does that mean? It means that there is a lot of opportunity. If you talk about 34, quick mathematics, you have about 66% of addressable opportunity over there. So I guess Nokia would actually then try to address this particular pillar in the digital infrastructure. But it's not that we're going to do it from today. We've been playing in that field. Just to mention to all of you that together with UNICEF, we have partnered with UNICEF and the Ministry of Education, and we've rolled out the technology on the digital schools. And what does it really mean? It means that, schools that are outside the cities, because cities are connected, they have pretty much everything they need. Children living here, but what about the children in the northern part of the country, or the other remote parts of this country? So it's basically enabling them also to access digital content to enable their learning. So that Nokia is already doing with in partnership with UNICEF and Ministry of Education, and it's quite a good project that is going on as part of the 4 pillars of the Digital Master Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, PS. PS, I'll set you up. You've heard from SME space, digital agency, interoperability, digital superhighway, cloud infrastructure, affordable devices, information security, human capital. As Ken said, the buffet is in front of you. What is your response? And as you prepare your response, I'll come to the audience next to also put up some thoughts around it. But just your initial views, because it seems all your solutions are on the stage. What would be your immediate response first?
I really want to appreciate the comments and the feedback we've received. SMEs is really the future for us. If we can manage to transform our SMEs, we will address some of our biggest challenges. We will be able to create more jobs, we will be able to grow wealth for our country, and we will be able to make more contribution to the global economy. So SMEs are critical. And as put by the first presenter there, is about the solutions that can bring efficiency in the SME sector, ensuring those businesses can move to a more visible space where they are very clear about their suppliers, their input, their output, and their profitability. Those are the opportunities that we are looking to see. How do we empower our SMEs? How can we give them tools? And even those who are doing business and they are employing, how do we enable them to have the power of control in their hands through the SME applications? So I think that's really most welcome. The issue of the architecture and digital economy writing on it, we've done quite a lot in terms of infrastructure. And I think as put also that we've made progress as a country. I think sometimes we just focus on the remaining gap and not appreciating where we've come from. There's a lot of progress this country has made, contribution of private sector, public sector, but we think now we need to get benefits from the infrastructure we have built, and the benefits should go to the digital economy, e-commerce, bring efficiency, bring more productivity in our business environment. The other I would want to mention, he said we should be proud of what we have and the potential that actually we could be having solutions we should export. Yesterday I was with the CS of Industry, Trade and Investment, and we were launching one tech Uber-like or taxi hailing enterprise, and it's entirely Kenyan and is able to address that market which is already having several players, and is able to find an opportunity and to present itself. So we think we have several enterprises that we can champion, take them as our champions and market them across Africa. And even it's mentioned that we could actually take even to Europe some of the solutions. I've had the opportunity in the recent months to engage with many young people, enterprises, Kenyans, with ideas on how we can digitize government, how we can have some services writing on the government. And I think we have great stories that will come out, and Kenya will indeed make a contribution. In a short while, we will have applications that will be known globally, calling Kenya home. And I think that would be really the end game or a good result of all the efforts we are putting in place. So those are my remarks just now. And I think there is still also a huge opportunity for us to work together. And one of our greatest strength is we have a strong young population. When you travel across the world, some of their biggest challenge is talent. We have a huge talent power in Kenya. They are young. There is enough time to skill them and link them to opportunities. They can serve anywhere in the world, either by traveling there or working from here at home. So I think that's another area we are looking about, how to skill them, how to link them with digital platforms to enable IT-enabled services, business process outsourcing, call centers, and such other opportunities.
Any burning question or comments? Okay. We'll take, how many? Just put up 4. Okay, we'll take the first 4. I don't know if there's another mic around, or we can use mine. And we'll start at the front and we'll just...
Thank you very much. My name is Luis Galeana. I am a colleague of Jorge. I am in charge of the Office of Kenya for Indra. We have, let's say, a hub in Kenya for Africa. We have like 80 software developers, consultants, and we use this expertise to implement the systems of Indra all over Africa. We have it here since 1995, and this is not a question, this is a request for the PS, and is related to the VAT for export that has been recently implemented in July 2022. That really, I mean, we'd like the government to reconsider that, because of course it's a cost and less, and make our office in Kenya less competitive when we compete with other organizations all over Africa. No? So that's my comment related to the VAT for export services. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, VAT. Yes, we want majibu sasa. Eh? Right. Next, there was someone.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much to the panelists. My name is Sharon Cherambos. I'm the Director for Policy and Partnerships at Bridge Schools. My question is also targeted at the PS. We've discussed about having local solutions, and my question is, what provisions are there that facilitate inter-ministry cooperation to safeguard the operating environment? Because ICT, definitely the innovations are born within your sector, but they are cross-cutting. So what safeguards are there to ensure that the operating environment doesn't have a lot of bottlenecks? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was a very informative session. My name is Maina from Youth Motion Kenya, which is an inter-county youth forum for business networking. Kenya indeed is endowed. Is endowed with the youth population, because that over 35 million of us out of the 55 million are under 35s. So, Bona PS, my question goes to you, and I congratulate you for the nice presentation you've done. Having come from Konza Technopolis and having known the kind of investments that have been done at that particular facility, I didn't see you capture the issue of how far it has gone. But I would wish maybe to get from you, like with all the investments that have been done there, and maybe those that would possibly be directed aside from this meeting and others, what is this particular thing that, or the particular aspect of it that you would advise a group of young people within Kenya or an individual can direct their money and invest at the Konza Technopolis, such that if I was to invest 1 bob today, progressively, I'll be earning by investing 1 bob today. Tomorrow I'll earn 2 bob, 3 bob, and maybe by the time the entire investment is getting done, I'll be earning 100 bob comfortably, without doubting whether I'll be able to. And so maybe you can inform us that, because I've been trying to follow up on the development of it, but I can't see maybe a specific place where young people can be able to put their investments. Thank you.
Go ahead. And as she asked the question, please, we're not ambushing the PS. So also panelists, if you have some learnings, how did VAT work in your country? If they safeguards, please help the PS. He's a friend, so let's not ambush him. Please go ahead.
In fact, I'll ambush the panelists. You better be ready. Good afternoon. My name is Diana, and I'm a research student at Mount Kenya University, and I'm currently at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. If I look around, I think I might be the youngest, if not the smallest. And in the discussions that I've had today, the word youth has been mentioned 13 times. I've been here very keenly listening. Only 13 times. Yet, as my friend said, 75% of the Kenyan population is 35 and below. So my questions go precisely to everybody there except the PS. Now, if you go read the EU policy, that is the Kenya-EU Partnership Framework, which is called the Blue Book 2021, there is a statement that they open up by saying Kenya is Africa's Silicon Savannah, which is currently the truth of the matter. The digital economy is insanely growing, and that is propagated to be way, way broader as we continue. As you're looking forward to launching companies in this country, as you're looking forward to increasing your partnerships in this country, I'll mention what the EU states as their projections towards digitalization and its improvement. One, the key thing is infrastructure for access and connectivity, digital skills, digital business, innovation-driven entrepreneurship, jobs, and digital government. So in regards to your companies, the very interesting names I've had, here in Kenya, we have very local names. We can call a company Kenya Kwanza. We can call anything. So for example, in regards to the companies that you have running, and personally, I'm 22 years old and I'm learning software engineering, are your strategies in your companies featuring those key aspects that are in your own policy framework? Then how then do they involve the Kenyan youth in facilitating them here in this country? Since the whole point of the EU Business Forum was a global gateway, basically meaning this should be your path route to the rest of the continent. So how then does Kenya benefit, and how then does the Kenyan youth benefit from you opening the businesses and growing here in Kenya? I'd love to know.
Bus.
Wow. Yes.
I'm now sitting on this side.
I think I'll sit.
Yeah, even me, I can answer that question. So, in fact, my dear, how many of you have carried books? This is what students is about. They've come with evidence. And I will ask my panelists to answer this question first, as we give the PS time to answer the others. Is that fair? So we will start with Pius on this side now, so that we go that way. Oh, you have another question?
For PS.
Oh, you have a question? Yes. Okay.
Yes. PS Tanui, we have worked with you before. You will not remember my face, but we have worked before. Since you're now PS, it basically means you have a hand to implementation. This is a reminder that I gave you then, that now that you're here as PS, allow the Kenyan youth to drive the digital economy. Like your colleague said there, the old generation, that is 50, you said you're 51? You look great. It's true. The population here in Kenya are very smart driven. The youth in Kenya, if you check TikTok, Bwana PS, you will see immensely how much talent we have. If only we could put a framework in place that we can hold you, personally, I can hold you accountable, that you could put a framework that allows us as the youth to drive the digital economy, and we'll show you exactly what we can do. Thank you.
Okay. The challenge has been thrown. Pius, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that particular question. And to the panelists, I guess that also offloads the PS from the focus, which is good. Really, it's a great question, because if 75% of our population is youth, then we should address every single aspect of the youth, because our growth and our survival as a nation depends on the youth. I'll answer this from my personal experience in Nokia. Our population is not that aged. And I remember in one of the partnerships that we had recently, we called it UN Women Partnerships, that Nokia was doing, or rather is still doing, across Africa, mostly for those members of the society that are disadvantaged in one way or the other. And in Kenya, we talked about STEM, because we know that mostly the girl child has a challenge in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So we rolled this out, and the drivers for this were basically our very young engineers who were aged between 27 and 29. And just to probably, I don't know whether that will please you, these were basically ladies. And so they drove this so well. We did this pilot at Baraka Olontoye in, I hope I pronounce it well, in Masailand. And, the youth, interacting with their fellow youth, what we saw was that there was no communication barrier between the two, because basically you're talking about specific age group, they understand each other better. So, and when you look at other dynamics in employment, onboarding a youth, or rather employing a youth, has its cost advantages, that every organization here will tell you. Yes, we cannot also ignore the fact that we also, the older or the mature Kenyans also need a job, right? I mean, they also have, they also have to survive. So we have to address that. But the digital space in which we play, the most obvious population that is attractive is the youth, because of their knowledge of the digital systems. That naturally knocks out the the so-called mature ones. I remember we used to call them BCs, born before computers. So, I think the digital space basically is for the youth, and most organizations, including ours, are focusing a lot of attention on the youth themselves.
You don't need to know all of this, but you need to be willing, when you're 30, to learn the next wave of technology. When you're 35, to learn the next wave of technology, because that is the real challenge. So if I may say something, is that preparing the learning capabilities of the Kenyans is the most essential one, okay? Because after that, things will flow, and in its own way, people will thrive. I just want to come back to the Bob question, is that be prepared to invest the Bobs and be prepared to lose all the Bobs in one go. Because that is startup. Because we invest, the money will come. I'll just end a little bit taking on the second question, that is, how do you push that into Kenya itself with the experience that we may have? We already thrive in some of these challenges from a different perspective, of course, okay, to be very direct. But we already, there was a guy that won recently an NFL Super Bowl, and the guy is very old. And they said, if you want to win a Super Bowl, ask the guy that already done it before. Okay, so I think here is not that we cannot do it or you cannot do it on yourself, but if you can make some paths easier, taking advantage of some of the knowledge that exists here in the areas that we have our own expertise. Thank you.
Diana from Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Be kind to us. So I'll try and personalize this question in relation to the company that I work for. So how are the Kenyan youth benefiting from ESET's investments in Kenya? So I'll just give you a brief background. When we came into Kenya, we realized that, okay, and I would say when we came, I was in Kenya. So when ESET came to Kenya and found us Kenyans, they realized that Kenyans are very hardworking and Kenyans are very keen on technology. So you can drop a pin somewhere in Nairobi and you'll find a youth who knows how to code. So they thought about the best way to do business. And when we came on board, we realized that the best way to do business would be through other partners. So what we do is that we go out and get partners. We train these partners. 60% of our partners are youth. Once we train these partners on cybersecurity awareness skills, we give them trainings, we give them access to our modules, we teach them how to go about this whole thing, and then we start going around looking for business. So what we do not close business directly because we are a channel-based organization. That is the model that we use. So as the youth, as the 60% of the guys are busy looking for, Kenyans would call it hustling. As you're busy trying to look for a buck, as you're trying to get customers, as you're trying to sell a solution, we make sure you understand what the solution entails, what the customer wants. We ensure you're professional. And out of that, we have had a very successful footprint. So you find that once you do that, we support you, you close the deal, you take your margin, we take our margin. So how the youth is benefiting from us is in two ways. One, you get trained, you get the knowledge, you get the know-how. Two, you work hard, you get the money. Thank you.
Now? Yeah, hi. Firstly, I mentioned earlier I'm chair of the ICT sector board in KEPSA. Until very recently, it was the sector board of ICT and youth. We were aligned to the former ministry. So in terms of that role, I have been representing the youth, so at my age. So, and I really wished I'd had more youth in that board, but I do talk to the youth. This does steer some of the things that we do. I will say that despite being slightly more than 51, I was able to access computers at a very young age. So I owned a computer at home when I was 12 or 13 years old. It was very low cost and affordable. I paid for it myself, delivering newspapers, earned money, delivered newspapers, bought the computer, plug it into your television set. You'd have to beg your mum and dad to use the TV. But that didn't have all these fancy things and apps and stuff on it. You just had this line, you had to start writing code. You had a blank screen. So this enabled me to develop my own digital skills at a very young age, which has, I think, seen me through and relearning a few things along the way. Now, if you are going to, your question was about how do we participate, or how do the Kenyan youth participate in the digital economy? If you're going to drive the digital economy, you're probably going to have to create things in the digital economy. Now, this is a smartphone, and this device is great for consuming things in the digital economy. It's great for watching cat videos, or you can make your own cat videos or TikTok dancing videos, but you can't create code on this thing. You can't create, you can't start a graphic design business. You can't create a software house. You do need something a bit more sophisticated in terms of computing power. So this is very important about the whole digital agenda of bringing the low-cost devices. I was pointing out that it's not just the smartphone; it's got to be the laptops, the MacBooks, the desktop computers. So we do have to drive down the cost of the devices to the Kenyan youth because it's too expensive. A lot of duties and taxes are added on when these things are coming into the country. We do want to make them locally, but we also need to drive down the cost immediately. We can't wait to be making computers here. So, but we are, as Liquid, we have partnered, I'll say, with best of breed companies that are bringing low-cost computers. Raspberry Pi is one. We will announce some others in the near future to try and drive down that cost. But I do find that I'm ending up adding almost 60% onto the cost because of the taxes I'm incurring when importing. The other thing I would really say is there's no reason not to get involved in policy making. It's great that you're doing I guess, internship at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I think this will probably stand you in good stead. But if you look at where policies are made in this sector, in ICT, they're made at global level. They're made by bodies like the ITU or the IETF, and organizations like this are very much engaging the youth. They held a youth forum at the ITU WTDC, which took place in Kigali last year, and then again at the ITU Plenipotentiary. Kenyan youth attended that. So there's every opportunity to get involved in policy making at global level, as well as, even if you can't really get involved at local level, get involved in global level, in ITU, IETF, things like this. There's a lot going on, and the world wants to hear what the Kenyan youth have to say about these matters of policy. Yeah, I'll just add on that. Pia said we've come a long way and progress made. And ITU has a maturity model where they sort of rank countries that on their maturity model of the policy, and Kenya is actually leading in Africa on this. So although we may be slightly behind South Africa in terms of digitization, we're actually leading on terms of policy and readiness for digitization.
ICT talent worldwide, no? We are facing problems in gathering, in having this talent in the different digital factories that we have. We have digital factories in Colombia, in Europe, in the Philippines, and so on, and we are facing quite a lot of problems. And one digital factory is here in Kenya. So it's one of the areas that we are doing in terms of hiring young people to have this talent, because nowadays, as I mentioned this morning, with the pandemic and so on, you can work in any place. So we have teams that are built up with people coming from different countries, and they are in the country. working together. We have as let's say a schema of working as a portfolio of solutions and so on platforms, so that they could work together with the same methodology, with the same, and have been working at their own place. No, so it's something that is possible nowadays, and we are doing so, and we are training and having this. No, in terms of also in terms of one of the things that is one of the pillars is the capacity, no, in training the people. So in this case, what also we are doing is we are providing as training in ICT, empowering these ICT capabilities of the people, and providing e-learning and training services, so that the governments could provide this kind of services to train and to make the young to be much more have these capabilities in ICT and knowing these emerging technologies and this kind of things. So, and other things that we are doing it too is developing we have an R&D model that includes also the development of incubators and innovation centers. Innovation centers in terms of providing solutions in certain ways. For instance, we have an innovation center that is focused on social services. So we are providing our technology and our methodology and working on our, let's say, helping the young to work in that technology, so that they could create solutions for that purposes. In this case, for social services. This could help in order to create a new economy, a local economy. No? I know that you here in Kenya you have several innovation centers, and you're investing in that. But also we can also partner with you in terms of. Okay, this is a review of what we are doing for the young.
Thank you. To conclude, so on our side, the way the youth benefit from our presence in Kenya is first through the recruitment. So we've created 20 jobs. The average age is 25. So for most of them, it's their first or second actually job position. Obviously, we allocate a lot of time to training and experience sharing with the other staff present in other part of the other office that we have. So in terms of the job profile, it would be software development, product designers, operation people in charge of implementing the services. So sometimes we train them. I mean, we got some of our staff poached and recruited by Microsoft. So that also showed that basically, I think you've heard about the issue about some of the local talent poached by this Microsoft and Google. But so it showed that the experience was good. The other way we want to benefit the youth, as you mentioned, is about the creator economy. Is to basically give an open source version of our software available to allow anyone that want to customize it in a way that is suitable for a specific use case in terms, for example, of a local integration with, let's say, another service present in Kenya for payment or whatever, to have a specific version of the software relevant for that. And then as part of a marketplace to offer this customized version to any SME. So this is something that is becoming popular for B2B software, to really create a community of people that will customize your software in use cases that are relevant for the specific local context. So that's a marketing approach that we want to do. Also going through local partners that will make money by reselling our software, customizing it. So we're really happy to have anyone that is tech savvy and so on to go and to resell, to implement, and to allow access to the code for really deep customization of the software and make it very relevant for the local market. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Diana. You've made all of us talk about the youth, which is good, because if we are not talking about the youth, we are not talking about Kenyans. Yeah, it's a big part of our country. On taxes, I think this is a global issue, not only Kenya. There's a lot of discussion on how taxes should be addressed. We are trying to balance revenue. Somebody talk about revenue and lowering cost. And we're looking at all the other options to find the right balance. So there's a lot of discussion we have with several stakeholders to see how do we ensure the market, there is vibrancy in the market. We support growth. We don't penalize growth or input, but rather focus on the services in terms of tax. So these are discussion going on within many stakeholders. I might not comment quite a lot, but your comment is well noted. I want to appreciate comment. You already have 8 software developers here in Kenya and serving the region. And I think that tells you about the talent we have in the country. And I think in the short term, having Kenyan youth will be a competitive advantage. And that's what Diana was also asking. And I think also another chairman asked. And I think even from this discussion, you've had an opportunity that if you have skills and capabilities, there's an opportunity to customize solutions. And you might not put any money. Probably it's only your skill. And you can start engaging. And it's good that our youth are in these forums. Sharon, she asked about a question about what do we do to remove bottlenecks? How do we remove silos in the public sector? And especially as we embark on digitization. It's true, we've worked in silos, we've procured hardware and infrastructure, and utilizing our specific corners without really optimizing the capabilities of all this infrastructure. So one of the things we are looking at is we want to know what we have as government and also private sector. A few weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago, we were with Ben Roberts in Naivasha. We were looking at the infrastructure we have in respect to the digital superhighway. What have we installed in the country? Who is the owner? Where is the cap? What should we focus? So that we work as a sector and as a country. Within government, we are also looking at what infrastructure do we have? Which entities have data centers? What is the utilization? What is our demand for the next 5-10 years? What should be our strategy going forward? What do we provide for the private sector assurance of our demand so that the private sector also can invest and provide? So we are going to work in a more organized way as government. And the first thing we want to do is to have what we call a digital architecture. We've said government is a platform. We can only achieve this if we are building one house, one digital house for the country. So that wherever we are building this, we are able to achieve the same goal and we utilize our resources and our infrastructure optimally. And one of the gaps we had was in terms of the skill and the voice of the ICT experts in the public sector, because the placement of ICT officers was quite low in state departments. And this is one of the things within the last 2 months we've been able to present and got even approval from cabinet to ensure every state department has a directorate of ICT. This will improve to ensure that there is adoption of these technologies, and also to ensure if there is any issue, it's placed in the right space for discussion. So those are some of the things we are putting in place to ensure we remove bottlenecks and remove silos with clarity of the journey of building a digital country. What is it for youth? I think that's what minor, something that you can invest very little and to be able to reap immediately. I think one of them is actually invest in skills. We have several programs. Last year, our country adopted a model to ensure our national holiday celebration is focused on a theme. And last year, 12th of December, it was focused on innovation and technology. And we had opportunities to get certain digital skills programs which were fully sponsored and made it available so that our youth can access digital skills. We had programs which would cost you about $1,000, that's about 100,000 shillings, and it was made available free. And this was for our youth to be able to equip themselves with the skills. And with that skill, you are able now to go online and find global opportunities. We've worked with TVET, technical and vocational institutions. We are deploying about 20,000 virtual desktops. These are devices that will enable our youth to be able to skill themselves and be linked to opportunities to work online. There are already a few successful models now in the country, some in Nakuru, some here in Nairobi, where the young people are able to go online and in a month earn from $200 to $2,000. And these are and it's actually in dollar currency. So we already have such opportunities. So minor, these are some of the things you can consider. You've heard also about startups, but you have been told you can invest also and lose everything. Yeah. So it's high risk, but also high potential of success. I've met young men who I met others about 6 years ago, and there's a huge difference. There were some I met in 2015 when I joined Concert Technopolis, and I now interact, and they are running their personal startups. And when you hear the figures, you actually can link that it's the same person. So the startup ecosystem in the country is speaking quite well, and I want to encourage our youth to explore, because where there are problems, there are opportunities. So if you find the right solution for those problems, there is huge success in those areas. I think for Diana, I don't have a TikTok account, so talk to Sally so that she can open one for me. Yeah, and I think we need to remain connected to the youth, because if we address their issues, we'll actually move faster. And in our arrangement and all engagement, we are putting the youth first. We are going to ensure that in this digitization agenda, the youth will play a big role. I've used a number of e-citizen services. Even I had used before joining the ministry. And when I met some of the young people who were involved in developing that application, I actually was impressed with the kind of solution that it was developed by our young people. So we have capabilities within our young people. Be assured, Diana and many other young people, we are giving you opportunities. So if you have ideas, find opportunity to demonstrate. There is SMEs who are in need of solutions. There are our county governments, there are parastatals, our mainstream ministries. We are going to open these opportunities for our youth to demonstrate. And we are building government as a platform. That will allow you now to come and put your applications on top. And also we are what we call over the top, OTTs now, Netflix and all. We hope we can see many of our Kenyans develop solutions that we can export globally. At Concert Technopolis, and I think that was one question, we are building one project that's going to support the creative sector. We are putting what we call Concert Digital Media City. This is for the creatives, to ensure we put the infrastructure in place for anyone with creativity, with talent, and they are able to come and utilize the infrastructure there, whether it's animation, whether it's film, whether it's any other software related, to enable them to exploit that talent and be able to export. We've visited a number of countries that have really done well, for example, Korea, where you find the exports in terms of digital exports. Gaming, for example, is a huge business. Animation is also a very big business that our young people can exploit and be able to export digital products. So we're looking forward to see that as a country, we will also have digital products that we can export, and these are opportunities for our young people. So Choil, I think I'll stop there.
Thank you, PS. Thank you for that. I think when you started off, your vision was make Kenya a competitive knowledge-based economy. The knowledge is with you now. Just out of curiosity, how many of you here visited Konza? Let us now start honesty. Out of 50 people, 5. Oh, there are some guys, 7. I think that's a trip you should make immediately. Go and see what's happening. Go and listen to the team. Look at that vision. You know, when you're taken to a place up there, then for us, where I come from, first you start saying, if we planted maize here, I would make a lot of money. But you can see the vision of what is happening there. I think that's something Kenyans and our visitors should do, just to understand what the thinking is. So that's something I would encourage all of you to do. I've been told we have 3 minutes left. Working in the European Union, we keep time. So we have 3 minutes left, so I'll hand over to Brian to summarize.
This conversation should continue. And there's another summit that the PS is organizing that I'm sure there'll be a lot of information on. But there's a Kenya Connected
over the Easter holidays in Diani.
Exactly.
Mombasa.
So I believe that this is it's indeed a conversation that we need to carry on there. There's a lot of knowledge and there are a lot of solutions that I was just blown away by the panel that was put together. For me, I say 2 very quick takeaways. Number 1, some of us identify as youth. But beyond that, so Ben, you have some youth in your board. So beyond that, I think the real takeaway is learning, skills, and beyond that, actually knowledge. I think that's an investment. That's your 1 bob that will never go away. You'll always have it. And it will always appreciate if you build up on it. One of the things that Nokia was extremely good at is its engineering. They were probably unable to sell as well as the Americans. But definitely, I think Konza has partnerships with South Korea. There should be a lot of opportunities to actually drive the learning. And I think that's one thing the youth can really hold on to. Finally, secondly, and also to just drive from what you said, Kenya is a gateway. PS has given a raft of projects, and I'm sure there's a very elaborate PPP model with which a lot of European countries can engage. But beyond engaging, let's partner. Let's actually partner with the government. And I think this is one of the things we can measure in the next EU summit is through those partnerships, how can we export? How can we actually export beyond Kenya into Africa? And with that said, I'd like to thank you all who are here. Maybe the real moderator, because I'm just a co-moderator, can actually close for us.
Thank you, Brian. To my co-moderator, please let's give our panelists a round of applause. I think for all of you who registered, there was an app, Be Too Much. These guys are here today and tomorrow. Please engage them. I've seen some jobs for you. There are some 3 companies that can hire you tomorrow. So please don't leave without a business card here. But let's engage. Let's learn. Let's find out what's happening. That's why this forum is here. Thank you, panelists. Thank you so much. Some of you we've met today. We've been talking online, but we've met today. Wealth of information. We welcome you to Nairobi. For those of you who are guests, for those of you who've been hiding in Nairobi for many years, Ben and Tiago, continue hiding in Nairobi. For those of you who want to engage, please do. Thank you very much for joining us today. We have a lovely audience. Let's keep talking. Let's keep engaging. Thank you so much.